we, especially as men, do so well of beating back the things that we don't want to think about, don't want to worry about throughout the day. And then we go to sleep and our brain's like, hey, look, you're not in control anymore.
This, I'm sure this is not at all uncommon. Is there any tricks or tips that you have for somebody that's creating those kinds of stressors themselves in their own mind to kind of break that cycle? Because I know it ends up being it's a cycle. It's something that your mind is just gets stuck on this idea, and it's going over um, all the scenarios, and then you lock onto one. You think, well, what if this happens, or what if that happens, and then your mind gets trapped in this. So how do you break that kind of a cycle?
Yeah, there's, a couple of ways, and I think it's so common. I joke around about sleep, like, we especially as men do so well of beating back the things that we don't want to think about, don't want to worry about throughout the day, and then we go to sleep and our brain's like, "Hey, look, you're not in control anymore. Let me start throwing this stuff at you," right? So, I love to journal personally. I think that it can be good to sit down right before you go to bed and write in your journal about everything that's going through your head, everything that's happening, whatever else. But I'll tell you what has actually really worked well for me that's not that pre-bedtime journaling is I keep a little notebook and a pen in my bedside table. And when I have that like 2 a.m., I shoot up and I'm thinking about the thing tomorrow or next week, I pull that paper and pen out, I write it down, and I don't know if my brain was always like this or I've trained it to be like this, but once I write something down on a piece of paper, I'm not worrying about it because I know where that piece of paper is. I know that I can come back. That probably 9 out of 10 times I can fall right back asleep and I wake up the next morning and I pull out the piece of paper to try to remember. And I've written in such chicken scratch, I don't even know what I was thinking about, right? It must have not been that important. But I think giving yourself that permission of, okay, I'm going to jot it down here and it's safe, lets you to really drift off and go back to sleep. I'll also say, though, anytime that I'm struggling with sleep, if you wake up at 2 a.m., you shoot up in the bed, you try to write that thing down on your brain dump, and you lay back down and you're still having trouble sleeping, I don't think there's any benefit to laying there and saying, go to sleep, go to sleep. Let me look at the clock and I know what time my alarm's going to go off. And if I fall asleep right now, I'll get 3 hours and 27 minutes, right? Just get up, go do something else. And maybe you have a really rough night of no rest and the next day is hard. But sometimes I'll find I pick up a book and go sit on the couch and, my alarm goes off and I've nodded off on the couch because I took that pressure of I have to fall back asleep off.
I do the book thing too, so I actually like that.
Yeah,
So
it's
when a
like the
man
one thing that
says,
really calms me.
yeah, so when a man says he's fine, somebody says, well, how is everything, or how you doing? I'm fine. What's he usually actually saying?
Oh, I think it could be a few things. I think it's often I don't want to acknowledge how I'm really feeling, so I'm going to say fine. I think sometimes it's I don't want this person to press on me, so I'm going to give them a neutral. Depending on who's asking, I think we're worried that we're going to bring down the mood, that we're going to dampen whatever. If I get home and the kids are running around and the wife asks how I'm doing, and I say I'm extremely stressed and irritable. Please make sure that you don't do anything to frustrate me. Like we're gonna have a pretty rough night there, right? So it seems easier to say fine. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think the biggest is I did it different, but I ran around for a while making sure that everybody else was talking to me about what was going on with them so that I didn't have to talk about myself. And I think that's another way that we do it. We say fine, and if the person that's asking us is doing really well, they tell us that and we can ask questions. If they say that they're doing really poorly, they tell us that and we can ask questions. And oh, look, I had the spotlight on me for 1 second, but I threw up my fine sign and now it's off.